Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. We are talking about tourism in Nashville. We have with us the CEO of the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation, Butch Spyridon, and a good conversation off the top there. Now we're just going to start taking calls. So
sure.
Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Edward.
Be nice.
Yeah, let's see. Edward, go right ahead.
Yes, my question is, all right, we just, the Metro legislature just gave an okay on the mayor's budget to put affordable housing for the homeless. All right, my question is, if they put affordable housing for the homeless close to downtown Nashville, you know, people from Brookmead or people from downtown area that's homeless, what's going to prevent them from going out of their house that we put them in, our apartment we put them in, and going downtown Nashville and still bothering the people coming in, the tourists, and running them off, you know, because it's a mess. These people are really a messed up deal. And
you're talking homelessness. You're talking homelessness is okay. All right, let's ask about that. You are not the mayor. You're not running for office, but homelessness is an issue.
It's a huge issue for the entire city. It's most visible downtown, but it has affected a number of neighborhoods. I know he mentioned Brookmead. The one thing I would say, the mayor's office has put Jay Survey kind of over managing some of this. So he's retired military, he's run OEM, and he cares, he cares. But he cares from a disciplined regimen. Let's have a plan. Let's execute the plan. And so as long as we have people like him, I think they will address that. They haven't picked sites yet for where to do this. And I also think part of that concern, you got people that want to be homeless, you got people that are unfortunately addicted, and then you got people that are just down on their luck, that need that hand back up. So I think you have to segment it. So you have medical assistance, you have housing to get somebody back into the workforce, and then we got to deal with those people, the chronic, that just want to live on the street. So I'm confident that if we're going to spend $50 million, that we're not going to give a path to just do what you're doing today. It's embarrassing, it's dangerous. We have refunded visitors' monies. Some have been robbed, some have been beat up. You know, I hear it almost daily. And so we're close to it, we care, but it goes back to, we can't just spend money. We have to stay vigilant on all of these issues.
When I asked what are the threats, I think that was one that you mentioned. Yeah. Homelessness is a threat to
without question,
ongoing growth in tourism.
Look,
well, go ahead.
Sidebar it. So we produced July 4th this past year in load-in time. We had a generator stolen. We had water hoses cut. We had people threatened with knives, workers. And to this gentleman, I have no recourse. I'm, technically not allowed to complain because they're less fortunate. But there has to be a balance. None of that is okay to the people who lost money, time, threatened with their lives even. So it's beyond the contributor can handle it. The contributor, it's a great program, we support that, but it's not enough.
Right. All right, let's go to Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey, good evening, Ben, and good evening to Bush. And on a side note, it was good to see him at a good friend of mine, Barry Scott's funeral, and I didn't get to holler at him, but I said, I recognize that guy. That's Mr. Nashville that they call him. But,
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for being there. My question to you, I want to get, and I'm going to hang up and listen. What are your views on the horse and carriages that continue to give tourists and residents a ride through downtown, park at traffic lights, then some big truck or car pulls up, playing, back that thing up, and the horse and cars are not meant to coexist like that, and especially with so many loud noises, how that causes stress and depression on horses. As far as the vendors, LA in 2018 did a thing called the Inclusive Action for the City. And basically, they're trying to decriminalize vendors. They realize that people who get into vendorship businesses need the money. A lot of them, that's all they have is to go get some wholesale hot dogs or buns and make whatever they can. And some of those are still living in homes. New York is adding 400 permits for new vendors. So it's part of the character of the city to have vendors. And it doesn't regulate you to be governed to brick and mortar restaurants where you would probably have to pay more. And that's not fair for the people and the tourists as I see it. And so that's my question. I hang up and listen. Thank you.
Are you asking two questions? You're asking about horse and buggy and then vendors. Okay.
I want to see his viewpoint on the horse and carriages because there are some. One fell in New York City last month and they had to hold it down. It almost died. So I just want to get that opinion. And I'm pro vendors. It just needs to be organized. And you don't get rid of all the police because of one or two bad apples that on the police department. It makes no sense to do that.
Okay. All right. What about that?
All right. The horse and buggies, it used to be the only thing going on downtown, and as people, we accepted it. It's a different day today, both in terms of concern for animals and the traffic and congestion. So in terms of being on Broadway specifically, there's not room. I would agree. I think that's where you were headed. And that falls under the Traffic and Licensing Commission, which we're trying to give them more authority from the state so that they can regulate hours and noise and safety and all the things that should have already been done. So I agree with you there. On the vendors, it's a mixed bag. So a couple things. One, you have a lot of businesses that are paying tens and $20,000 and $50,000 in property taxes and sales taxes. And so to have somebody set up right in front of them is an issue for those businesses, and I understand it. More important to me right now is our sidewalks can't handle the capacity of people. So when you are jammed with people and then you start putting up carts, tables, we're selling weed, we're selling phallic-shaped waffles. It got out of hand, just like the party buses. When there were a couple pedal taverns, it was cute, they were annoying, but we laughed. And then all of a sudden, nobody checked it, and it went over the top. Same thing that's happened here. Daddy's Dogs is a great example of a Nashville institution. Everybody loves it. So part of my thought is first we got to clean up the sidewalk, and that means the sandwich boards, probably the vendors. Let's get our act together, and then figure out how and where. Because I agree that it is part of the character, and some of them have rented parking spaces in some of the parking lots. Now there are less parking lots too, but that's one solution. Get a lot, get your permit, and have at it, because it is. And a hot dog's more affordable. There are plenty of reasons, but being smart about it, and that's just what we haven't done. We let it get out of control, and now we're trying to reel it in, and we're making everybody mad instead of just a few people mad.
Interesting. Okay. Good questions, Mike. Thank you. Let's go to Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hey there. Enjoy your show tonight. I want to take issue with what Butch is saying. I don't buy this theory that we go out there and we bring all these tourists here, and that by doing that we keep our taxes low. I don't believe that at all. I want to remind Butch, we had the largest property tax increase, 34%, and that was huge. And we're going to face another tax increase probably in the next administration. We have mismanagement in the city. Right now, our operating budget, we spend over 13% of our operating budget just for our debt. And we have companies that are coming here that don't want to pay their property taxes. There's no income tax here, so what's the net benefit? We're going to go out there and say, you don't have to pay your property taxes. Come here, Oracle, Amazon, all the rest of them. Of course, they want to come here because they can go out there and not have to pay their taxes. So I'm sorry, Butch. The idea that tourism keeps our property taxes low, that's not true. And if you're kind of in a bubble there and you just hear all these people that are saying, oh, tourism is great. But the people that are out there, we don't see the parks, the libraries fully funded. And I'm sorry, I know you mentioned a thing about homelessness. Let's go on with that.
Go ahead, finish that thought.
But Andrew Delkey was found guilty of killing a person. But we don't go out there since he killed somebody. We don't say let's eliminate the police department. We don't do that.
All right, well, let's talk. So that touches on what he's saying. I'm sure there are others that might think that. So I guess you address what he's saying there.
So I understand his point, but my first response would be, how big would that property tax have increase been if we didn't have this revenue? And the second piece of that is you do have to manage it properly. But you cannot deny we're 30% of the visitor spending in the entire state. Now, part of the flaw in Tennessee is the money goes to the state and then trickles back to the cities. So, I'm charged with doing a job. I think we're pretty good at it. But I would absolutely argue all day long that revenue that's coming in, and I don't cut deals for Amazon and Alliance Bernstein, and sometimes I think we do give away too much. But that just makes what we do more important. I'm really flipping the argument on you, because while that's happening, if you didn't have us, we'd either be bankrupt or our property taxes would be through the roof. And then the last thing I would say on that large increase, because we have this goofy law that you have to adjust back down after you increase, I don't even understand it.
You're talking about the property appraisal.
Yeah, the appraisal gets redone, so it's not a net. You have to almost start growing again.
Right.
So we still have lower property tax rates than I think the other three major cities in the state. And politics being what they are, we waited too long between property tax increases. We grew. They weren't visitors adding roads and infrastructure. Visitors don't need that, but we had to accommodate that, and we didn't adjust our property tax because it's politically unpopular. So we waited a little longer than we should have, and unfortunately it was a pretty big bite. And I would add on that, I think of Peg Leg Porker. He must have called me 20 times. His property taxes went from, like, I'm making this up, but from $10,000 a year to $50,000 a year. One small restaurant. So he understands it, and he's in our business, our hospitality. But over 50,000 people work in the industry. They buy goods, they buy services, they pay property taxes, and they help generate $20 million a day is spent in this city by visitors in Davidson County.
And that $20 million, you're saying, you obviously have no control over how that's spent by the city, whether it goes to X or Y or Z or the state, but you're bringing in that money.
Yeah.
And there are times you wish it were spent differently.
I absolutely have my own opinion sometimes, but nobody's asked me, except this guy.
Well, you may. Yeah, who knows? All right, we have to take a break. We'll take a break, come back, take more calls. We'll be back right after this.